Good morning, my most beautiful friends and amazing tribal people, community, loved ones, friends, allies, all of you. How's your day going? Or evening going, depending on where you are in the world. This is Lisa Dawn Lajoie, or Lisa Lajoie, whichever way that you know me. And this is our vlog for this week, or audio vlog for this week. And we're in November now, midway, and the year is coming to a close, and I'm wondering how you're all doing. And I wanted to have an honest conversation with you about what this has been like for me this last year of an unbelievable transformation, letting go, and the deep probing of my soul and my expansion in the healing realm and in the global transformation realm, wanting to help the globe change. It's been an advanced year for me and a very important, significant year in so many ways, so many ways. So I've had, a couple of learning curves that I wanted to share about that I think would be super valuable to some of you that I know you might find it difficult to share about what you've been going through or understand the energetic workings of the universe and what's going on and why these things are happening in your personal life. I'm not going to go global as much as I'm going to go personal. For me, this conversation is about my personal experience this year, and I'm sure, well, I know a lot of you who we are connected. I know you're going through a lot too. I know this year has been a great transformational opportunity. We've had, those moon cycles, massive support with the moon during the summer with eclipses and power moons and super moons all in a row, and we've had some planetary opportunities as well. This year, the numerology is the number 11, which is really about building better relationships and mastering relationships in the sphere of our existence. And a lot of us have been challenged, which is so interesting because I'm in a very strong, powerful year. Yet at the same time, I've gone through the growing pains of letting go of old, outdated, and outmoded relationships. And there was a theme that was very important for me this year. And I let go of a couple of pretty significant relationships by choice. Good friends that I've had for a long, long time. And I know some other people have gone through that as well. Just, you don't want to clean up your life experience, but you need to because you wake up and you realize that some of the people that are around you, some of those relationships, truly and deeply, the energy doesn't come back to you, that people are not serving your life in the highest way. They're using you to serve their own, and they're not giving back. Because relationships are built on the flow that we exchange. And for me, defining some personal relationships or co-collaborative relationships, let's say, of people that call themselves, and I was calling them, really good friends in my life, I realized that that's not really what was the case. The case was very different than what I was wanting. And I found myself trying and trying and trying to make something work when in reality, I was dealing with very self-serving people. And nothing against them. That's what they do. They're not capable of giving back at the same level that I was contributing to them. And I ended up realizing that some of those relationships needed to go. It was time to let go. And, I did what I could to save them. They were long term. I did what I could to communicate. But I realized that realized a really super important lesson this year, that when you're in relationships, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your friends, your colleagues, your family, your children, with yourself, if we don't pay attentive care to what we're giving and contributing to people in our lives, if we are living in a place of self-service in the extension of the relationship, the other side of the relationship never gets nurtured. And the people on the other side end up feeling empty because we're only serving ourselves in the situation. We're not serving them at the highest level, or we're serving them through our perception of what is needed instead of learning to listen to the other side and recognize what really is there and what's really needed on our contribution. because relationships are about contribution. Relationships that are intimate and profound and deep are about contribution. They're about giving and receiving and sharing and igniting and collaborating, passion, possibility, purpose, love, a good feeling, a feeling of safety and security, a feeling of trust and loyalty and love. And what I learned was I was giving all of that, but what was coming back to me wasn't the same. And what I was doing was justifying those relationships and saying that they were serving me when really they were just really old relationships, and I loved the people and didn't want to face reality. I didn't want to face what was really coming my way. I didn't want to face how self-serving some of these individuals were in my life. And it was very hard. It was very hard for me to say this is not really what I'm looking for in my life. And interestingly enough, like my environment exploded, to be honest. There was this huge upscaling from the energetic field in my possibilities to deepen my bonds with other people, deepen my bonds with new relationships, deepen my mindset around being loved. And I know many of you are going through that. I know that because we talk about it, we share, and when I do these vlogs, or I'm on the radio show, and you're listening or you're contributing, we're talking, you're sharing with me, you're reading my emails or my newsletters, and you're coming back, thanking me for some of the shared growing that I'm doing, because in sharing the growth, you can understand that even me as a personal spiritual mentor or teacher, I have growing pains too. And many of us have gone through supremely difficult life experiences. We've gone through childhoods that don't support love, that don't support encouraging positive reinforcement in who we are. And it's not an easy process to go through when you're realizing that you have to become more to attract more in your life. And so this whole year for me, around collaboration, around the deepening of the bonds of the people around me, and I'm still, it's like closing the circle of that opening and who I am and who I want to be and what my new paradigm is going to be. So I've been working super hard on that. And when you let go of something, there's a process. There's a process of, I don't just walk away from people. It takes me a long time to realize that somebody is not what I think they are in my life. And for me to make the decision to walk away. And, honestly, like, that's not an easy process for me. I'm a pretty loyal friend once I've decided. And I know a lot of you are like that. You're listening right now and you're saying, that's me. Like, once I get in, I'm in. I don't walk away just for walking away. And then there's other people that just walk away. It's easy for them to just blink an eye and find someone else to play with in life. But I'm a rich type of person in my heart. So I want those relationships. I want evolutionary experiences. So on the one hand, as I've been closing doors on some significant interactive relationships that have been long in my life for a long time, these other doors have been opening. And sometimes the doors have been opening and these beautiful new evolutionary people are coming forward to show me the contrast so that I could see that this is really not the design of, what I call the good friend that I want in my life. So I decided to share because it's come up, a couple of times this year. And I think, if you're an evolutionary person, I just want to give you a little bit of comfort and say you'll probably always be doing that, where you're growing, expanding, and deepening your horizons, which will, create change in your life, which will create sometimes the opportunity to, you'll have to walk away from certain situations and choices and people. You'll have to walk away from old, outdated paradigms or realities that you've been living, attracting, and dealing with. It's normal. It's natural. It's healthy. We're in an environment today where we have the opportunity to grow and expand, and to learn and to take reflection. And let me tell you, I took reflection time. I went inside. I really thought about, is it me or them? Is it us? Is it the togetherness? What is it that I need to move away from? And in some instances, I just realized that, the two main reasons why I walked away from some of those, friendships, or what we called friendships, was they were outdated. I grew past them. And some of them didn't have the loyalty factor that was needed. The ego was so massive on the other side that they were more interested in being right than being happy with me. They were more interested in proving that they weren't doing anything wrong while they were doing things that were really betraying of or that were dishonest towards me when my back was turned. And I found out, we find out because life is protecting us. Life is, and the universe has our back. And sometimes, people that love us will say, your apparent friend is talking like this about you when you're not there. Your friend doesn't say thank you. Did you notice that your friend doesn't say thank you? You do so much for them and they don't even say thank you. They don't appreciate you. They're so arrogant that they make it about themselves. Everything ends up being about themselves. Those people, when you help them, they never say that you helped them. And you're in a circle at a party or a dinner party, and you hear them. You spend hours talking to them on the phone, and then you hear them talk about this transformation they had, and they don't even slightly acknowledge that you helped them, or they don't even admit anybody helped them. They're like, oh, look, I was here, and then I realized all this stuff, and now I'm here, and I'm fucking amazing, and look at me now. Those types, I know some of those, and I've walked away from some of those in the past year. And good, and throughout my life as well, because I realized that's not who I am or what I want to be. My deepest commitment this year was to be around appreciation and to allow appreciation to be in my life. And people that are self serving and ego based people, they don't know how to say thank you. They don't know how to give of themselves. They talk about giving, but it's not true giving. They talk about, how great they are, but they're not that great. This happens often in life. You know, we have to feel appreciated for appreciation to exist. We have to feel that somebody is gracious and humble enough to say thank you for what we truly give them. And that's hard when a person is ego based. So I realized a lot about myself and why I had attracted that and how I was overgiving to these types of people. And that it was time to close the door on that cycle of influence in my life, and that these types of characters were not influencing me in the most positive way. And I started putting boundaries and limits on these relationships. And the minute I did that with myself, I realized, this is not, doesn't feel good. Like I overgive and then it's like there's nothing that comes back. Or, the feeling of being neglected. You just feel like when you need them, they're not there. But when they need you, you're there because you're that loyal friend. And I know a lot of you listening are empaths and very sensitive, beautiful, really, really special people who've gone through this a lot. And you've been honest with me about those experiences. I've helped thousands of people through intuitive readings and clairvoyant coaching and sessions of transformation. And this is a common thing. I'm sharing about it because I've gone through it this year. And I'm at another level of my life experience, and I want another type of quality of person. And it's interesting, even people that I would never have expected to recognize this reality in, or to witness this reality in. The other thing that came up this year for me, which I think is super important, is, you know, trusting the process and reminding myself that there's a process sometimes. And as we grow as people and we elevate our abilities, the people in our lives sometimes they can't match those abilities. They can't keep up with the possibility of the new you, They can't keep up with it. And that's part of the reason sometimes we have to move away from relationships. There was nothing, I had a couple that were just easy, just naturally moved apart. A little bit too easy, actually. When you don't miss somebody, you realize, well, I think that's just like, you know, that was coming to an end pretty naturally. And then there was, maybe one that was volatile, sadly volatile, and sadly came to an abrupt halt because I was betrayed and just kind of like clearly found out that the person that I thought was there really wasn't there, and watched them just basically, bullshit a bunch of people, and that got back to me. And just a story I haven't been in a very long time. Like that's just childish stuff. This is like stuff for kids. And when I realized what was going on, like it's like I was so surprised by it. I'm like, who does that? I'm like 54. Who does that? Who runs around telling lies to other people, not thinking that those people who love me are going to come and tell me, like, this is what was said. And I don't think they're a sincere friend. And you really need to look at it. It's weird. And then when I confronted, there was a total denial about it. Like, but I'm like, when you have a group of people, they don't every single person doesn't tell the same story. You know what I mean? Unless it's a true story. And the quality of the people are not, they had my back, whereas the person who was pretending to have my back absolutely didn't. And I didn't know, they weren't close enough to me that I would have noticed, and very shifty and sneaky and egotistical. So, this was super difficult for me to face and see. And yet at the same time, I kind of knew already, that feeling when you're like, I know this isn't a totally safe person. And, I was really excited about their progression as a person as well. And I think they just kind of stepped back into the abyss of whatever bullshit they were living in the past, and they stopped transforming with me anyways, and went back to this old type of style of, gossip and betrayal and stuff like that. And that's sad. It just made me sad, like, and that exists so much in our world, that the pettiness of people. And, I love it. I walked away going, this is very important for me. There's 3 key things that I learned. It's okay to let go. I was reminded it's okay to let go of what is not in your highest alignment, because when you close one door, many other beautiful doors open, especially when you have a paradigm shift, when you have an internal shift in what you want. It was good for me to claim appreciation as a high standing value in my relationships now. It's something that I decided at the beginning of 2018 that I wanted to live in a high level of appreciation. I got totally frustrated by the amount of people that had been in my life that weren't in that vibration. And it's not that I needed to be appreciated. Yes, of course. It was the extension and living in appreciation and gratitude. That type of person that says thank you, not fuck you, thank you, Not it's all about me, but just has that feeling of I'm not alone, that can say I appreciate what's around me. I appreciate life. I appreciate what I have. I appreciate my friends. I appreciate my family. I'm a grateful person. I'm aware I'm not alone. I'm aware that there's so many things synchronizing in my life to help me and support me. That type of vibrational person. And for all the rich and new quality people that have come into my life, and even the person that's emerged from inside of me because of those decisions, to live at that level of appreciation as a standard and a value as a human being. So I love it. I mean, I love where I am now, and if you're going through this and you find it hard, remember it's important that you can choose another level of existence. And from choosing, there's going to be things that you will learn. Like I did not expect at the beginning of the year when I made this decision to live in appreciation, and for that to be a new standard in my life and in my values and in my relationships and in my work. I didn't know that, I would have to let go, and it wasn't just relationships, friendships, it's also, clients. I had some clients that I had for a long time that I realized were just not, you know, they weren't at that level of appreciation. They weren't good for me. And, I, that in that turn, that means I wasn't good for them. So I let that go, I let that go. Um, Adjustments in personal relationships. I mean, it went across the board, old coaches that I worked with, even I adjusted my decision making. I adjusted how much effort I spent on, working with them or influencing and supporting. I realized, like, when you let people in your life, they have to appreciate you, even whatever level it is. If you're coaching with them or they're coaching with you, there needs to be this level and vibration of appreciation as part of the experience, not just an exchange of money for a service, but a real deep appreciation for the people that I'm working with and that are working with me. So this has also been a wonderful evolutionary journey for me, and I'm still configuring it, because the challenges kind of ran through the year a little bit, and I'm learning more and more and more about becoming that person that lives at that highest level of appreciation. I've also learned that it's okay to rewire and reconfigure the self. And it's okay to do that. And it's okay to learn the values of lessons like appreciation, of values like appreciation. And it's very important. It's extremely important. So I encourage you, if you're going through this, I encourage you to learn and to find out what it is that you appreciate about yourself, the people in your life, your work, the creator, the universe, about life, and find out what makes you feel that feeling and what makes you feel that feeling in your contributions to others and in your work. Like, what makes you feel that, and live in it. And if you find that there's, people in your life that you don't feel appreciated by, please, I'm giving you permission. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to discern and decide how to move through the journey. And sometimes you can realize, and this also happened for me, like I was telling you, different storylines, some endings or shifts, let's say, in some of those relationships that I just changed my interaction and dimensional experience with, just naturally shifted. They naturally, stopped existing at that level that they were. The interactions slowed down on their own because I made the decision. So I didn't have any conflict. There was no conflict. Like, literally, out of the 2 or 3 relationships that had been old that were readjusted on their own this year for me, there was one that ended up bad. That's not bad. Out of possibility, and it was sad, like so unnecessary, and it was somebody I cared for a lot. So it was sad for me to go through that unnecessarily. You know what I mean? It could have been so different, but I was faced with deep betrayal and deception. So I said, well, I'm gonna let it go. I need to let it go because that's the right thing to do, and let it go and just walk away. And have that honest conversation, which I'm all about. Just honestly saying, like, this is what happened. Here's the validation. I'm open to talking about it. The person absolutely didn't want to be honest about it. So I said, just let's let it go. I'm not into this anymore. We had gone through this conflict a couple of times over the years, and it kept coming up over and over again, the same thing. And that's something else you want to learn from. If this is you, if you're going through a challenge like that with somebody for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and it's the same shit over and over again, and you're trying to change it through your exchanges and your interaction, you're trying to get the other person to understand that this has to stop, what's going on. Or, in my case, it was like I was always trying to say, just be honest with me. You don't have to be that person who has to prove themselves to the point that you lie about who you are. Like, it's unnecessary. I don't get it. Like, why do you have to do that? And that was an ongoing conversation. And, they just couldn't help it. So I was like, that's okay. You can not help it somewhere else. And not a bad person, a great person. The other ones as well, all great people, just not great people for me, and that was okay. It was really okay. And like I say, you're going to notice when you make a new standard in your life that things drop away naturally. Some things drop away because you have to learn from them. And that's why I had this challenge. I had to really learn from it and elevate a new standard from the challenge. And, some of the stuff, I knew it was happening, but I put my head in the sand a little bit because of the love I had for that person, which was very sad for me to realize, and I honestly tried my best to encourage transformation, but they just couldn't do it. So, and that's something we have to understand, that it's okay to let go when a person wants to stay the way they are. So I encourage you that if that's you and you're in that situation, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can just be that you pull away, you slowly make some new boundaries and see what happens. It doesn't have to be a volatile experience. It doesn't. And sometimes it might, in the sense of like a conflict comes up and you have to assess from the conflict, because that's an opportunity to grow in a different way. But if you want to live in a level of appreciation, a new level of appreciation, it might happen that you're going to end up recognizing that in your work life or your personal life or your relationships or your collaborative life with others, in your family life, that things might need to change. And I encourage that. I think it's really important. But just go slow, be clear, do some journaling, really take the exercise serious. Where do I feel appreciated and where do I don't feel appreciated? Don't be afraid to sit down and write a shit list. Write all the people down in your life. That's what I did. And I really assessed, do I feel appreciated by these people? That they're supposed to be in my life. They call me a good friend. I call them a good friend or best friend. Do I feel an exchange that makes me feel that feeling? And do I see myself giving appreciation to that person? And assess it. Give yourself the opportunity to close this year out, assessing a new level and a new paradigm of possibility, of, expectation, of evaluating appreciation, and create a standard for yourself. Don't create the standard for other people. Create it for yourself, and it will naturally show itself to others that are in your life. They'll naturally see that you've changed and grown. And what happened to me, just to give you some closing awarenesses, is I started to talk about appreciation with people. And I started to say things like, so who helped you with that? Did you thank them? And I started to do that with the people that I know do not have appreciation for others. The people that I walked away from, and that, some walked away from me as well. We just kind of naturally flowed apart, which was perfectly fine for me. You know, that was a question I asked. And the feedback I got was very telling. It was super telling. And you could do that. You could take time in your relationships to, do you feel appreciated by me? And I did that too. Do you feel appreciated by me? And one of them was so interesting. I'm giggling a little bit because one of them just was like, I don't want to need anybody in my life. I'm like, then why do you have relationships if you don't want to need anybody in your life? It was kind of funny to me. This is like, I was like, who has relationships when they don't want to need anybody? That's what relationships are. We need each other to thrive. We need people in our life to hold us, to share our vulnerabilities. And I remember when this like super close friend of mine said that. I mean, our relationship is totally transformed now. But these are the reasons why, because I challenged in a positive way these conversations around appreciation and found out really who people are from these inquiring, intimate quests of conversation. So I encourage you to do it. What is appreciation? Do you feel appreciated by me? Do I feel appreciated by you? Are they able to have that conversation? Slowly but surely. But do the journaling yourself. So the exercises are sit and ask yourself if you want more appreciation in your life. Make that like a new standard, a new evolutionary standard. Ask yourself, who do you need to appreciate? Who do you need to scale up with and show love to and encourage yourself to give more appreciation to others? And then also, if this calls to you and you feel connected and you're still listening to this half hour in, it means you're definitely connected to this conversation I'm sharing. It's to look around and really take a time to journal and write down all the people in your life, or the coworkers or your boss or your family, and just do this exercise from a place of objectivity. Say, I'm just trying to find out if I feel appreciated by the people in my life. Once you do that, you'll get a yes or a no. Check in with why. Why don't I feel appreciated? Oh, they don't ever say thank you. They don't acknowledge what I do for them. Ask yourself questions. Are they capable? Do you feel like they're this person is, are they capable of doing that? Because sometimes it's really not about, it's not that they don't want to, it's that they don't know how to. And there's a big difference between I know how to and I won't, which is the reason I walked away from those relationships. It's not because they couldn't, it's because they wouldn't. And there's a big disclaimer there. if a person can and they won't, it's very different, because that's an ego-based person compared to a person who doesn't know how to. Because a lot of the relationships that were saved and that are still are in my life are because we had these conversations and we talked about level of appreciation at another standard. And they were like, oh my God, I love this. Let's practice appreciation together. So I was thrilled because those friendships deepened the bonds, those co-creative and collaborative relationships, friendships, and some in my working life got deeper because of that question, because that question could move itself forward. That question could be, where you put attention, it grows. So, I was very excited to have that experience through being willing to say, you know what, I'm thinking I want more appreciation in my life, and I want to give more, and I want to receive more of that, and that I want that to be a value in my interactions with people that I love. So some had to go, but a lot stayed and have grown exponentially, and I'm thrilled about it. It's wonderful. Wonderful. And the interesting thing is when you take the risk to just evaluate what you want in your life and you start living it, things really open and things become more fluid and flowy, and what you seek comes forward. And it's fun. Like, I'm still closing out that process, and there are some questionable relationships I'm not sure about. We'll see what happens to them. You know what I mean? And some that for sure I just accept as this is what it is, and it'll never be what I want. And it doesn't mean I have to go or stay. It just is what it is. And I won't, engage in more intimacy, which is totally fine, which we have to understand. So there's different layers of relationships as well. And in the different layers of relationships, we can, experience a variety of intimacy levels, and that each one of them is okay. So, it's wonderful. But I learned I was an overgiver, and I learned to stop doing that. And I learned this year to implement appreciation in my life at a higher level. And I gained a ton, and I lost some, and it's okay. And if this is you and you're going through that, it's okay. It's okay to say no to what you don't want, and it's okay to say yes to what you do want, and to live that and be that person so that you can feel loved, and you can feel understood, and that you can feel embraced by yourself, and that you can make others in your life feel embraced by you as well. This journey is like our journey, and we do what we want with it. So I'm excited for the year closing to finalize these opportunities that I have, and I definitely am going to spend the next 6 weeks trying deeply and completely to appreciate myself a little bit more, because that's where I need some work, and also the people that I work with, my in my business, my people who are in my everyday life that support me, and including you. You're absolutely amazing, amazing people who support me and love me. I appreciate you so much, so much. You make my life better every day. Just by being there, and just by sharing, and just by being willing to share in the vulnerability of this spiritual life that we have together. I'm also honored that you're there, and I hope you enjoyed this raw and real conversation from Misfit to Mystic podcast. I love you guys. Enjoy. I hope you got some nuggets from the experience and some action items that will support you in your life. And, I'm closing the year out just seeing how I did with this whole conversation about appreciation. And I encourage you to, whatever your theme was this year, that you spend the last bit of it closing it out. This year has been 2018 is an 11 year. And an 11 year is a master year in relationships, and, the deepening of those interactions we have with self and others. So, I picked something really high to master this year, appreciation, and I'm doing pretty good. And it's been interesting. And the exchange with life and everything around me has been mesmerizing, opening, closing, expansive. And the lessons that I've gone through have been so meaningful and valuable to me. So I'm excited to share the rest of the year with you and how that might continue to grow and exchange. And if you have questions, if you have things that you want to share or showcase, I truly and deeply hope you feel comfortable enough to ask, because I would love to hear, and I would love to hear what you have to say. And listen, we'll talk really, really soon. And have a most amazing Sunday. And www.tappingintoit.com or lisadonlajoie.com are two of my websites. And listen, we'll talk really soon. Have a great day. Bye for now.